Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of October 19th, 2021 to order at 7 p.m. We'll stay seated for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. On behalf of myself and council, I want to thank our CAO staff, Chief Champ, and volunteer firefighter Don McPherson for planning and participating in our Public Works Garage and Fire Hall Open House in Golden Lake on October 6, 2021. It was great to see the renovations to our Golden Lake Fire Hall, which can now house all of our trucks and equipment with ample space, as well as addressing the health and safety deficiencies that were an issue for our volunteer firefighters for a number of years. Having proper equipment storage lockers with the required ventilation, showers, and bunker gear washing machines will improve safety and efficiency for our fire department firefighters. These timely renovations were made possible through the combined efforts of our fire chief and our volunteer firefighters donating over 500 hours of their time. In addition, service delivery for the residents of Golden Lake can now be provided 1 day a week from the new office in our new Public Works Garage. I want to thank all of council for their strategic thinking and vision by supporting these important initiatives as part of our strategic plan. On Tuesday, October 12, 2021, I attended a virtual meeting with the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation. We had a discussion regarding the opportunities for future development on the Snowdrifter site. Ray Bonenberg and Diane McKinnon are planning to attend a meeting in November as a delegation to provide information on the services and support available for businesses in our municipality. I want to conclude by wishing all of our residents, especially our children, a safe and happy Halloween. Concludes my mayor's address. I have a resolution that the October 19th, 2021 mayor's address be accepted as presented. Can we get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Reddish-Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Burns? Yes. Councillor Buckwald? Yes. Councillor Robinson?
Yes.
Councillor Reddish-Schoenfeld?
Yes.
And a yes. That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is the adoption of the minutes. I have a resolution that the October 5th, 2021 regular council meetings be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and a second? Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Any additions, corrections, or omissions? Councillor Reddish-Schoenfeld.
On 7.6, the SPCA, where it talks about the animal count report, I believe the friendly amendment is in the wrong spot and it should be in 7.7. I think where it says Councilor Buckwald motion to friendly amendment, I think that should be below. I think that's what it's in reference to.
So should I just change the resolution to as amended or as corrected? As amended? So it now reads that the October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting will be accepted as amended. Councilor Burns?
Yes.
Councilor Barco?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Reddy-Shanklin?
Yes,
Yes, that's carried. Thank you. That brings us to delegations, and with us tonight, we have our fire department, our chief, and our fire deputy fire chief, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
The floor is yours, gentlemen, please go ahead.
This delegation is part of our ongoing program to update our equipment. We refer specifically to the tanker. It's located in Rankin right now. This is what the chief can speak about. If you're aware.
A copy of the resolution and. So as Kevin mentioned, I think most of you are aware, we have developed a replacement plan for all of our apparatus. It stretches, I believe, into 2030 something.
2035, I believe.
Okay, at this point in time, we're looking at replacing the tanker in the Rankin station. So just a little bit of background, we have a working group that was created to spearhead the replacement plan for all of our vehicles. It's made up of different members of the fire department. This current working group, I got lucky enough to spearhead. The objectives of this group is to project a replacement schedule for the fire apparatus. So the information has been gathered from many sources, specifically Underwriters, Laboratories, NFPA, Ontario Fire Marshals Advisory Committee, and Insurance Advisory Organization. All these organizations combined, they set standards and procedures for what apparatus is required and replacement plans for them. So also we have the Fire Underwriters Survey. They have additional requirements relating to fire apparatus. Each station requires a frontline pumper and a tanker to be considered for a 3B rating. 3B rating is what our water supply and stuff like that rates for insurance purposes to our ratepayers. So frontline pumper apparatus cannot be more than 20 years old. There is some discrepancy there that they can be put into a second line apparatus for an additional 5 years. Again, frontline tankers must not be older than 20 years, and again, they can get an additional 5-year lifespan if they're moved to like a secondary apparatus. Generally, apparatus over 25 years of age are not recognized by the underwriters. So currently, the truck that we're looking at right now is our priority for replacement is this tanker. It's 9739 is just a truck delegated number. It was built in 1993 and lost its accreditation in 2018. Projected replacement timeline. Specialized vehicles require planning, preparation before purchase. So these are the type of vehicles that we can't just run up to Butlers and whatever and pick one off the shelf. Chances are they won't have one anyways at this stage of the game. Approximately 18 months from the time of order until delivery. Okay, so that's from the time that everything is rubber stamped that yes, we're going to buy it. Then all the processes go out and things are built and then we see it. So it's important for us to get the ball rolling here, which is why I'm here tonight. To get this process for replacement implemented, ASAP because there is a timely, quite a timeline reference, having the actual replacement vehicle in our hands. Currently, I'm sure you are all aware, we have a pumper that's being built right now that was ordered in January of 2020. And we're hoping to have it in our hands by early November. So timeline process, just to put it out there, the tender for that vehicle went out in November, the 11th of November 2019. The proposal was accepted the 8th of January 2020, and again, the delivery we're hoping is November of this year. So there is quite a time frame there. Also, there's probably about a 3-month prep time to finalize the tender. We have been working with some suppliers to get ideas and proposals and stuff like that, and also working with our committee to come up with a vehicle that's going to suit our needs. So again, there's probably a 2-year time lapse from the tender process to the arrival of the vehicle here. Our current status of the truck that we want to replace, it's safety this year until approximately July of 2022. It is serviceable and operational. It is, however, starting to show its age. We did have, along with the safety inspection this year, we did have some significant repairs that were required. Ballparking the dollar value about $16,000. We did have some frame issues that required repair, clutch issue, and some shifter problems that were all repaired. But it's starting, like, especially with the frame and stuff like that, the vehicle is starting to show its age. It's starting to show the wear and tear, which is why we're really trying to push for this to get the ball rolling on the replacement. So the truck replacement group, a little bit of background. We have a group from all stations, okay, so it's not just the Rankin trying to do what's best for Rankin. We have members from all the stations involved, and they also have a variety of both firefighting experience, and some of them are truck drivers. So we try to incorporate everything. Some people have a lot of firefighting knowledge and not so much truck knowledge. So it's nice to have the truck people involved to get the specifications on the truck. Again, they've been researching with suppliers and organizations to come up with a replacement proposal. We've also been assessing the needs and requirements to best suit the operation of the Knoll Fire Department. And we have developed a potential replacement vehicle to be put out for tender. There's a lot of different fire apparatus out there. So what we have to take into account when we are trying to spec out a vehicle is what's going to best suit North Algona Township. There's trucks out there that are designed for cities. There's trucks out there that are designed for municipalities. There's trucks out there that are designed for the best of both worlds, and there's bottom line trucks, and there's trucks with all the bells and whistles. We hope to be in the midst there, in the middle, so that we're getting the best bang for our buck, and we're going to best suit the needs of the fire department. There's a lot of measurements and stuff on there, but this is kind of the look of the vehicle that we're dealing with. It's got extensive, more compartment space on it for equipment, and it's user friendly. But this is just kind of a basic outline of what we're looking at. So some of the features that we're looking at for the new truck, it's onboard pumping allowed increased efficiency for pumping capabilities. Our truck that we currently have does have a plumbed in portable pump, but it limits our capabilities of what we can do with it. So we're looking at a different pumping system for the new one. Increased equipment storage, so it has lots more compartment space. It'll enhance our equipment storage. Operator friendly controls and operations. So, one of the big things being, with the new standards, the new vehicles have automatic transmissions. We have a lot of drivers that aren't truck drivers by trade. So automatic transmissions is certainly a help. It also, when you're dealing with emergency vehicles and you're responding, there's radio communications, you gotta watch the other traffic, so not having to shift transmission is a real upside for the operator. It's one less thing for them to worry about. Also increased safety features, all equipment stored specifically designed locations, and nothing hanging on the exterior of the vehicle. The problem with some fire apparatuses is municipalities buy a fire apparatus, they bring it to the fire hall, and then they say, well, what can we put on it? And where can this go and where can that go? But to take and plan ahead as to what's going on the truck and what we need to carry and make spots specifically for that stuff, that's our goal here, is why we wanna go with not a stock truck. We wanna create what we need for the township.
Sorry, Joe, we had no possible fire. Oh, so we have to answer questions there.
Alrighty.
No problem.
Sure, right when we get to the cost.
But could you be able to answer any questions? Like, I just have a question about the pump. Like, is the pump that is in the older tanker, is that not like an effective pump? Is this one like more of a Cadillac thing? Is it something that's better? That's more,
The pump that's in the old tanker is about the same age as the tanker.
right?
If you're gonna put it in a truck that's gonna last another 20-25 years, the pump's not gonna last. And then if you're gonna be retrofitted,
Right.
the pump that's actually in the current one isn't designed to be mounted permanently in the truck. It's a portable pump, it's basically jury rigged to make work.
It's basically a 450 gallon crack pump.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know like the 3D rating for the insurance? Does it drop substantially? Is it non-existent then? Like that's one of the reasons residents like a volunteer fire department, right? Just to help with the insurance.
As far as numbers, I couldn't quote it. I know for myself, it was for when I looked at it, what the difference was going to be. It was about 30% for me with my insurance company at the time.
Like going from the 3D,
Going from 3D down,
yeah, so you're doing something.
and some companies, again, this is third-hand information.
Right.
If you don't have, basically at 3D, you're considered, you don't have much of a fire department.
Okay.
So that really affects your insurance rates, and even sometimes your ability to get insurance for the municipality.
And do you know what happens to the old equipment then? Like,
Any old equipment will be surplus and go for possible auction. The last surplus tanker that we had, we traded for 2 compactors.
right, so like, what would all that, like, I imagine some of the equipment, like the equipment you can move, would go up to the new
Yes.
tanker, right?
Yes.
So basically, you would just be left with a shell, right, like the shell of the truck.
Of the old truck, well, yeah, you have the cab, the chassis, the compartments, and
Oh, yeah, but what do you think you get for that? If you were to sell?
What normally happens to old tankers is they end up on construction sites, and the one that we traded ended up as a watering truck for a construction site and never on the road again, basically. So they can float it to the construction site. So our trade value, which I think was very good last time, was around 5,000,
Right,
which is, I think, was exceptional for that truck.
for that truck, yes, it was.
and maybe this can be office and say, the payment schedule, we never paid the $440,000, we put it probably in installments. Is that the way, or is that dependent upon wherever we get the truck from?
So to purchase a truck right now,
No, let's just say down the road, we decide we're gonna, I know, it takes 3 years, right?
what has been done in the past is councils paid for the cab and chassis. And then the delivery of the truck, you make that payment, but council will look at all kinds of different financing options for vehicles.
But you spread that over the time.
You have 2 years to save after you start out.
Hopefully, they can get back to your to finish off the discussion, but
Those are the majority of questions.
I have my doubts. Because I did have some questions as well. One of the things that I'm concerned about, and it's not just our fire department, it's every small municipality, including our neighbors. And the question I always have is, do we all need our own tankers? Yes, I understand having the frontline pumper is very, very important. But is there not a better way to share the services when it comes to tankers, and or buying one bigger tanker so that you don't have to shuttle as often water to a fire?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the chief, but I can speak to you as someone with firefighting experience. Basically, this truck, from what I see on the diagram, first I saw it when it was attached to this, I wasn't a part of it. It's a 3,000 gallon tanker, which would be replacing the same size as the one that we have. Anything bigger, we don't have a place to store it. What it comes down to, you would basically have to get something that was like a transport, like one of the big tankers. And even that, try to get that down some of our township roads to be able to get into places with it and then get it out. It's really not feasible because once it is empty, now you got to try and get it out of that scene quickly and easily to get it back to fill it up again with another tanker. And again, with the insurance rating, you know, it requires a pumper and a tanker with a minimum volume of water. I better not quote on that, but there's so many readers you have to have between the two trucks. And realistically, even to put it someplace else, where would you put it? Who would get it first? Right? If you wind up with multiple calls going on.
And I think that would be a problem too,
Yeah.
like the sharing, we don't want it, we really don't want to share.
Like with mutual aid, like we go up and support each other all the time. But again, on your pumper truck, you've only got 700 gallons of water.
Yeah.
At 150 gallons a minute out of 1.5 inch line, which is the minimum line that we have. 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're out of water. How long does it take to drive from Edenville or KHR, or quite frankly, even from Rankin Station to get to Golden Lake and vice versa? So you really need to have that extra gallonage on hand. And if your trucks are roughly the same size, it also makes your shuttling more uniform, right? So you don't wind up, this one holds 3,000 gallons, this one holds 1,500. So this one dumps quicker and fills quicker, but now you have a jam on the fill site because they're not rolling at the same rate. So ideally, you want to have two trucks of the same size.
I just look at the cost, almost $500,000 for one tanker, and think every one of our small municipalities faces that same challenge, is paying for the equipment. The province wants us to follow the very same standards that the cities follow, and we don't use our apparatus nearly as often. It's not racking up the same amount of hours or miles. But here we are, we have to have the same,
Just because that's something
same level of service.
you could bring up at like Roma or somewhere, because I'm thinking also, like, and we had that discussion before, how our trucks have really few kilometers on them, right? So I sometimes, like, and let's just say this, if they didn't have that 25-year clause, but some other kind of clause, I mean, you could spend like $50,000 on revamping the one we have and really save $400,000, right? But I mean, it's kind of like our hands are tied because that's what insurance and whoever the powers that be are dictating. And I would have to say that it's very unfair.
Well, and that's a conversation with some of the other mayors, that they tend to have the same concern, is we're following the same standards that the big cities follow, and is it necessary?
Well, I guess one of the concern I have, based on what Sparkle indicated, if our mileages are so low because we're not using them, the same level as, say, Ottawa. There should be some sort of compensation within the insurance policy. You know what I mean? Because just like if you have your own car, you're not driving the car $80,000 kilometers a year, and you're only doing 24, there's a modification. So I don't know whether it's, speaking with the AMO or one of the large organizations to go behind to get something like that, because it's going to be crippling, not just for us, but for everyone. If the prices keep going in further.
I was surprised when I saw that price tag.
Well, I was like,
That's more than our pumper was.
Yeah.
Which really surprised me.
It's supposed to be coming next month.
yeah,
And part of it probably is because of delivery and
The variables.
supplies and everything right now.
yeah.
But
Yes.
the fire underwriters has all control over this. And if they tell us how old the truck can be, and we follow their rules, like.
But that's
I agree with you, that makes sense, like, we have trucks that hardly get used,
and because of the age,
because where we live in that, like, how many fires in the last 2 years have our trucks been up to, like major fires, more car accidents and stuff like that. And they're in a heated garage, they look after, and we have to do. Firemen or jobs that we have to do.
And the truck we're looking at replacing wasn't originally our truck we bought. Right, just like we did with our rescue truck in Golden Lake. That's actually interesting. And I'm trying to think how long the city of Ottawa, it was the city of Ottawa amalgamated and Gloucester and all those in with it. But our rescue truck in Golden Lake used to belong to the city of McKeon Fire Department. That's how old it is. And again, rescue trucks, they don't have a standard on because they're not considered primary business.
right,
I hear what you're saying, and it is a huge amount of money, and it is crazy because of the fact that, again, we don't put a lot of miles on them. Right, if we maintain them, and that's the only reason that we're getting 25 and more years out of them. But if you think about it, how many people do you know that can make a vehicle last 25 years before they have to replace it?
And when Rob started talking at the start, he said we have 2 stations, like the Rankin and Gold Lake.
Yeah.
Where does a Deacon stay, or is that, what is that?
Beacon's not considered a full station because it doesn't have a pumper and a tanker.
Like a pumper?
Currently, yes. Originally, the plant that there was supposed to be, it's changed a few times over the years from when we spoke to the Underwriters. At one point, it was supposed to be a pumper there and they would recognize it. But we didn't have a pumper put there, so we put a tanker in, so they recognized that for a while. But now that they set that standard, the 2 apparatuses, my understanding is Beacon is not considered a full station. Because it doesn't have its own staff assignment there, it doesn't have its own response area, it doesn't have apparatus.
So this resolution hasn't been moved or seconded. The council just agreed to, we'll leave it till the end of the meeting and see if our 2 representatives make it back. Is that procedurally acceptable?
Which is their majority to move on. I'm okay with deferring it until later in the meeting in the hopes that the chief and the deputy can come and speak to it much more eloquently than I could, because they've been involved in the process.
Is the rest of the council in agreement with that? Okay. So item 7.1 is the township update. I have a resolution that council accepts the township update report as presented. Can you bring up the report, please? This case staff wants to speak.
So the Golden Lake satellite office is now open, so again tomorrow. Shaw Woods as it gets colder, it hasn't really started colder, except this morning, we will be transferring operations back inside the way we were doing it last year. There's no vaccine requirement for residents to come to the counter, so it's important that we get that out there before it. Although as long as they're just in that area, they don't have to have the vaccine requirement, mask requirement is still there, but it's posted. Public Works is getting ready, roads ready by grading and packing roads and getting some of their material equipment ready. The Beacon Bridge abutment, the project from last year, we finally got it done. And there might be some questions as the deck that we built sits beside the abutment. We're just starting on the abutment, but we can't go on the abutment with the deck until we get an engineering report, because it was playing council before the engineers want to do diving and all kinds of concrete. That's going to cost us a lot more than that cost. I'm hoping that now that we have a bill to fill our obligation under the grant, that we're going to be able to find an engineer that will approve it. An interesting picture for council of 1949, what I was talking about earlier, where that bridge actually failed and steam shuttle fell through. But that was in the concrete part, the concrete held, so we'll find an engineer. On the Looking Trail, gazebo is basically ready. The trail committee is going to meet tomorrow or getting it in place. There was a knoll on the Gurlitz end that we needed to make it a little more gentle so that our students and future consultants can go to the pond area and take samples. So that's been done with some spare material that we had last week where our crew was in there. All our road projects, with the exception of the deficiencies on that cemetery, are completed this year. The crews have been going around closing big washrooms, storing picnic tables and trash cans, so that's underway. Township Cottage is now, I think it's actually been winterized. Just a note for council, we doubled what we did last year in Township Cottage, so great. And we've already got priors for next year. Roadside cutting is now complete with the asphalt block patching going on. The Golden Lake Accessibility Project, that's the street lights, the spinner and playground equipment, and parking spaces, and also some washroom apparatus. We should be finished out on December 1st. So a lot of things happening. We're getting something wrapped up for the fall.
That's what I was talking.
So when you said there were double, how many weeks was it rented?
I think that it is rented every available day that could be rented last summer. I'm just looking at Laura and she's shaking her head, yes. So we did really good.
That's great. And remember a long time ago when we had a recreation committee, we talked about a mobility mat or a mobile mat or whatever did we ever get that?
We don't have the funding to get that at this point, but certainly we can, it's been in all our applications for Melissa Bishop Park.
Right, okay.
So we'll just continue to do that. And just one more note, when we brought up the cottage, because it was so successful, we're going to look at going further into the shoulder seasons. So May 24th, the Thanksgiving for rental. So if we can fill those up, we actually have more rentals.
And another thing about the cottage we have to look at is what the trend for rent. There's a cottage sold, it's a winterized home on Island Drive this spring. And they're at that cottage, I'm not sure it's $1,900 a week.
And that's actually low. So
And we're only gonna need 800.
the cottages, lakefront cottages are averaging around 5,000 a week. It's amazing what they are. We don't have a lakeside, but we've gone from 6 to 8. Maybe we look at going to 9, or that's council prerogative. I think that the person that rents it for $800 isn't going to be too concerned about $900.
Or even 1,000.
And it's just a much better product now.
And it looks like it. And with that, should we finish this one?
Yeah, we'll finish this one.
And then go back.
I just wanted to say for the rest of council, speaking to staff this week, the residents that were able to come to the office in Golden Lake to do some of their business were really, really pleased to have that in place, to have that service so much handier, especially the businesses that were paying for for their waste transfer fees, bank tags and so on. They certainly appreciated having that office open. So as that information gets out to the public, I think the offices become busier up there because people will take advantage of having that. So thank you to staff for pulling that together and making it happen. So I have a resolution, the council accepts the township update report as presented. Can I get a move in a second? Moved by Councilor Bird, seconded by Councilor Buckwell. Any further comments? Councilor Bird?
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes,
Councilor Reckley-Schoenfeld?
Yes,
And a yes, so it's carried. Thank you. So we'll go back. We took a break while you gentlemen left, and I hope it was just a small fire, or it wasn't a fire at all.
It was a patrol person was burning with a brush from the evening, but just where it was high up on the hill that somebody saw it from across the lake.
Okay.
And they followed it, so. This is where it is.
So we did see the price of the truck.
Just so you know, we didn't leave on purpose just before that. Yes, we didn't want to go door.
That's right.
after we had the heart attack.
Yeah, yeah, so if, as the current standards and material cost estimates, the replacement cost on the generous side, we're looking at about 440,000. The exact cost will be in relation to final tender and apparatus specifications, so once we have all our ducks in a row as to what we're gonna get and how we want things laid out, there is, we'll have a better dollar figure, but for, we're looking around the 400,000, so 440 on the generous side. This proposal again, was completed by members of the fire department who are also, ratepayers of the township. So, not only the needs of the fire department were addressed, but also the impact of the ratepayers. Okay, all your firefighters are ratepayers here pretty well, so, there's a lot of bells and whistles that we could go for, but at the same time, we want to keep things respectable. So throughout the whole process, the committee focused on providing a modern, user-friendly apparatus, but cost-efficient price to better serve the members of the NEW Township and the surrounding area. So any questions for us?
Councilor Reckley-Schoenfeld, did you want to?
well, okay, just the 3B insurance, you know, if it's a dramatic difference.
It all depends on who you're insured with.
Okay.
And whether they're using the fire underwriters, but that is the predominant rate set. Underwriters.
And you said you kind of, were looking at different makes and models and bells and whistles. So you picked the middle one, you thought that was the best bang for a buck, like if council said, I don't know, we can't afford 400, we can afford 350. Is that a total then you couldn't make anything work?
There's definitely some features that we have kind of in plan that we will have to look at cutting. Again, it all boils down to the final tender as to what bells and whistles you're willing to do without. Yeah, and we kind of stay ballparkish the center because there's a lot of luxuries that we don't need for a fire department. Like we're not in Toronto that run 5 calls or 10 calls or 20 calls a day. We don't. You know, our call volume varies quite a bit because we could have busy years and slow years, but there is some bells and whistles and there is certain requirements for the new standards that you have to have. that you can't do without. And then, yeah, there is some things there that we've added that we could possibly delete.
Are they like a significant cost? Are they like not significant, like $100 or $2,000?
It depends.
You know, it all depends on which feature. we're going to do. Some of them are fairly expensive, some of them are, say, $200. So,
What was the cost of the pump truck that was supposed to get to you next month? What was the cost on that?
$425.
Was there one?
No, the price on the tankers have gone up significantly in the last 5 to 10 years. It used to be that you could get something like this for 250, 275 range. It's just not happening.
That Ford, when I saw them on the package, that they found that much.
It's unfortunate, but it's the way the world these days.
So one of the questions I had, and maybe you gentlemen can answer it, and that's the cost of the fire apparatus is getting more and more expensive. And I know the neighboring municipalities are having the same struggle paying for equipment that is so expensive that doesn't get used very often. Yes, you use it for training, and on average, since I've been sitting here, probably 6, 7 major structure fires in a year. Lots of motor vehicle collisions, probably more so even than fires.
This year, for sure.
And I guess my question is there an opportunity to share more apparatus with our neighboring municipalities? Is that at all a possibility?
You're talking about one vehicle serving 2 municipalities.
Yes.
Part of what it boils down to is where you're going to put these first crack at. And he said fire underwriters came through in 2018, I believe it was, and looked at our facilities and our equipment. And that's when the Beacon area actually lost its 3B rating because it didn't have current pump around tank. So.
And do they, the fire underwriters, and I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyways, do they look at rural municipalities and give extra consideration for the fact that our trucks aren't on the road?
They actually do, sir. They actually do. That's why we get up to 25 years in a major municipality. I believe it's 10 years for the front line, and then you can take up to 15 in the reserve capacity. So
So they do
get a little bit extra time. In my personal opinion, not enough time. But I'm not making rules as far as that.
Yes.
Maybe to make it easy for council, those bells and whistles and prices. And I think I know my answer, that it was big for council. So the cost of the cabin chassis, there's really no cutting other than engine size or something. So it's pretty much a one price.
Yes.
The cost of the tanker itself, you may have an option of different materials, stainless or steel or poly or something, but very little play there. So in relation to those bells and whistles that you talk about, what percentage of that? So let's say the truck is 195,000, the tanker is 220,000. Now you've got, just 20,000 play with. So for council, when you're talking about bells and whistles, you cover the bells and whistles that were, is it $5,000 or is it 105? I think you're talking that really low amount.
Yeah. Now, I mean, one thing that as was mentioned earlier is the pump feature, the onboard pump feature of this vehicle. There is a cost variance there, but when we weigh into the fact that our capabilities with this truck compared to what we have now, in my opinion, it's worth the money. For what we do with the truck and how it operates for us. there is some significant features with this onboard pump that save wear and tear on the type of system that we have now.
That particular pump, I believe, this is about approximately about $30,000 range difference. But, and some of the compartment space that you mentioned earlier, that's added to the particular vehicle. Cost some money as well. But you can't put your equipment inside the truck, it's not much good.
Councilor Buckles.
Again, just one thing I don't think I have to do, but with the compartment space, limited time it's up paying from the outside of the truck,
Absolutely.
which to me is a public safety issue. As having been one of the drivers who's lost stuff off the top of the truck, right? It's a bad thing.
So you are correct on that. Everything would be within a compartment, either on the side of the vehicle or through the water tank. Correct?
Yes.
So that's one of the food tank for the copper section.
So this onboard pump, is that mostly just for drawing water and speeding up the process of drawing water? Or can you?
Well, the system we have now, you cannot draw water onto the truck. You have to pump from either a loading pump or another vehicle to load the truck. With this new pump system, yes, it will have drafting capabilities so that you can pull up at a dry hydrant, lake, whatever you can reach, and suction water onto the truck that way.
It also acts as a discharge pump.
Yes, so it will have more outlets than what we have right now on our current pump. It also gives us the ability to circulate water from out of the tank into the pump and back into the tank, which we don't have right now. And how that benefits us is because the way we use our vehicles, if we have a structure fire, the first truck pulls up is generally a pumper and they start attacking the fire. The first tanker pulls up, they do what's called a nursing operation. So we run a hose from the tanker up to the pumper. It buys us time to get everything set up and stuff. Now what happens with that, if we're not using a lot of water, we have the pumper or the tanker, pumping up to the pumper, and that water is sitting stagnant in a line, which is called deadheading the pump. And that in turn gets hard on packing, it gets hard on the pump that's down the line. With this new system, we'll be able to circulate water, so if we're not pumping it on the fire, we'll be able to circulate it through the truck, not deadheading, not causing extra wear and tear on that pump. So it's another feature, plus it gives us more output, more volume, and it gives us drafting capabilities as well. Another benefit of that is should a pumper go down, for example, like the pumper in Renton go down for whatever reason. Okay, we're very limited right now with the tanker that we have on our capabilities to respond. Yes, we can respond to a fire and pump water, but this truck will also give us more capabilities. If for whatever reason it happened to be an initial response vehicle to a structure fire, it gives us more capabilities than we would have with the tanker now.
The existing pump that's on the existing truck maxes out at about 50 psi. It's made to volumes of water, not real pressure.
You can't use fire. That's
Exactly. Can't necessarily reach the fire.
Councilor Buckles, yes.
just another question on the truck. The onboard pump road map, is that pump and roll capability?
Yes.
So you can actually drive the truck along the road for grass fire
Yes.
or bush fire while you're actually pumping water, which is something you can't do with a pump truck either.
Correct.
I don't see that onboard pump as a available whistle. From my perspective, I think it's.
It is an upgrade over the very basic system, but drops it some significant advantages.
Yeah, you still recognize the
Not as a kind of tap. Just water, like water supply.
Councilor Bird, yeah.
This truck was replaced in 1993. It's the one we were replacing.
Yes,
Okay. So it's almost 30 years old.
it is, yeah.
And it will be by the time the wheel shows up.
The one other question I had, and Kevin, I'm wondering if, because we're coming close to budget preparations, could you include in your budget submission that equipment replacement or apparatus replacement schedule again? So we have a better idea of planning as we go forward, the monies that we're looking at for new equipment. That's what I was told.
Is there like, okay, so like an ideal world, but I mean, you run out of time, you'd submit like two possible scenarios to council. One like this and one if you could decrease certain things, right? And, you know, then maybe you were saying, well, you're only increasing $10,000, so maybe that isn't really worth it, but maybe you end up decreasing it by 40, which is significant. So that's one question I have. The other one too is there things you can add on after to make it, like, let's just say you got rid of $40,000 worth of stuff, can you add those $40,000 worth of stuff back on in a few years when you have more money? I don't know, like, I'm just saying, like, let's say I buy a basic truck, right?
Yeah.
But I want to soup it up later on, well, I can go get a lift kit, and I can put running boards on, I can get a nice pump. But is there anything that you could subtract, but later add on at a different date?
And so for your two questions, yes, it's possible for two different proposals together. For the second one, not really. It has to be manufactured and designed.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Rollins.
The truck that's there right now, you said it's 30 years. What would be the lifespan of this one? Anticipated.
Probably within a 20-year span, we would be leaning towards potentially replacing it again. However, it will get another 5 years, so you're looking at least 25 years.
Andrew, did you have anything?
I did previously, but I didn't think.
Okay.
Speak as well. The reason we're bringing this to you is because of the long timeline when it comes to actual replacement.
Yes.
Try to move on.
Any other questions? Councilor Marco.
So, assuming, very great at that point right now. If you got a yay from us tonight, what would be your timeline for being able to tender it?
My best estimate on tender, considering the work that we've already put into it, would probably be November at the latest.
So basically, we want 2 months.
To be able to do it properly, yes. Make sure you're asking the companies for the right things. They get a proposal that's worse than.
Well, it's not simple.
Yes.
When, I guess this is a question for staff, when would we be, I'd like to start on a budget schedule. I know a lot of other municipalities are planning to have their final budget ready for the 1st of January.
So schedule, so we're estimating that February will be the
1st of February.
It was later in February, but staff can bring back a revised schedule of what kind of desire.
Yeah, I think the completed budget I put in my calendar was the 27th. That's right, and the public meeting was going to be on the 8th.
Would council want to see that sooner? I would. Council decision.
I think from my perspective is we can start the ball rolling now, or we start the ball rolling in January. But eventually we've got to do something. The trucks are going to 30 years by the time something shows up. It's going to be showing up in the term of the next council either way. So if we leave it for the next council to deal with, it's gonna be longer, and what happens? Because again, they put how much money, for $16,000 between the clutch and the framework that had to be done. And that wasn't really a long-term fix, that was just to tie us over, right? That's my chatting. So I would much rather start the ball rolling now than halfway through 2022 and have it die and scramble to do something. That's my perspective on doing this.
Councillor Roberts.
The other concern that, for inaction would be the risk of what could happen to insurance.
And that's a big one.
And that would put the whole operation at risk.
At least if we have gone ahead with the tender, it shows FUS that, yes, we do have a plan, we are working to address this.
Normally in the past, council has done pre-budget approval for fire trucks, so you would approve it possibly tonight, and yes, the ball will be rolling. And then you do your budget, you've already approved that, so just incorporate it in the budget, so that's going to be established by the council.
Councillor Roberts.
I'd like to see like two possible options, this option with the cost of it, and then a less expensive option. And what the more expensive option had versus the lower option. And I do agree we should start sooner than later, simply because we know the costs are going to continue to go up, right? So to me, the sooner you get the tender out and stuff. However, just being fiscally prudent, I just like to see the two options. I mean, we could see the two options and still vote on it next week, not the next council meeting, that's only 2 weeks away. And maybe there's not a big difference. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's always wants and needs, right? What we want and what we need are sometimes two different things. But I do agree to get it going sooner than later, simply because guaranteed it's not going to go down in price. That's for sure.
Mayor,
Yeah.
if that you do the pre-budget approval tonight, and with Council Wright's suggestion that as staff are writing the tender, they incorporate possibly two options, so they can get started now, they can bring back that tender before it goes out, you can drop it or add it, whatever you want, change it, and then they can just start.
And I would agree, because when I read the resolution, it doesn't refer to a specific dollar amount, so I think we're okay the way the resolution is written, and it says that the fire department apparatus replacement, that council accept the fire department apparatus replacement information, and that the fire department proceed with the replacement schedule for the fire apparatus of the fire department. But did you want me to reread that, Councilor Buckle?
I'm just thinking of the wording, it says that
Says that
we're proceeding with the schedule. The schedule has more than one vehicle in it at a long time. And yet this now for the future one, other actions are written. I think we should probably specify for the replacement of this truck.
Yes.
So you can just put the schedule as presented
As
at
presented.
at this meeting.
Yeah, because that's the only one truck that was in the presentation.
Look at the number if you really-
Okay, so maybe staff can help me out. That the fire department apparatus replacement information presentation be accepted as presented. And that the fire department proceed with the replacement schedule of the fire apparatus.
As presented at the October
I thought we'll take up the word schedule.
19th meeting.
Yeah.
And just replace the apparatus.
Replacement for the fire apparatus as presented.
That gives us more focus on.
Yeah.
Well, you could put the truck number.
I thought we were just programming for them to be able to move forward with the tender.
But I think that's going to allow them to do that.
But that's not going to do.
Focus, because I think that's the way Andrew and the mayor explained it. They would do up the two documents and bring it back for us to full on. before it's actually
So that's where that,
published.
because that's a concern I have, that we don't have a second crack at it.
I don't think the amounts are going to be that huge for the difference, just because I have faith in these two gentlemen in the committee that they have us put a lot into it.
Should I put down here replacement of the number of the truck?
You can if you want.
Yeah, mine's a
It's in the report.
9739.
And if the fire department proceed with the replacement of 9739 fire apparatus as presented at the October 19th, 21 meeting.
It's pretty specific.
So
All of that.
question for Michelle. So I need a mover and a seconder for the amended resolution. And then we have to vote on the resolution as amended, correct?
Well, the original resolution is never read.
It's never read.
No.
It was never moved, so there's nothing to amend.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time.
Okay, so we're good. Thank you.
Expire.
Well, I need a moved by Council Robinson, second.
Actually, that's, Councillor Buckle moved it, and I'm
Or-
Oh,
sorry.
yes.
Or if you do want to do it, that's fine.
That's okay.
I will do
More you can.
Okay, I think that's moved by Council Buckle, second by Council Robinson. Any further comments, questions? Council Burr,
Yes.
Council Buckle,
it. Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yes,
Council Ray-Patonka,
Yes,
and a yes. Mary, thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time.
I won't be over any years.
Yeah. Another word for this. Yes. Item 7.2 is our COVID-19 vaccine policy. And we have a resolution that the council accepts the report as presented and directs staff to bring forward a formal vaccination policy to the next regular meeting of council that mirrors the county of Renfrew policy and includes provisions for service delivery that are critical to the operation of the township and ensures the health and safety of all persons working in township facilities. Seconded, moved by Councilor Burr, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Questions?
I am 100% dead set against forcing vaccinations staff as an ability to be employed. I personally don't believe that it's legal, and I certainly don't believe that it's ethical.
Councilor Shuffle.
and for once, I probably agree with Councilor Buckles. And as I was looking over the potential one that looks like it was kind of mirrored from Renfrew County, I did have some questions too about it, including like the test, the dates, including like why the fire department wasn't mandated that they had to do it. You know, because to me, it seemed kind of hypocritical that you're making office staff, administration, counselors, volunteers, and public works do it, where it says firefighters will perform emergency duties or training will be strongly recommended but not required to fully get vaccinated this time. I did think that kind of sent a confusing message. And then there was the medical or human rights exemption, and by what I've been hearing on the radio, basically there's no exemption. If you had a bad reaction to the first shot, and if you were anaphylactic, that could be a medical exemption, but basically, and the human rights one, it's just because I know some people that aren't vaccinated and they basically can't get a medical or a human rights exemption, even though they feel very strongly that they don't want to get vaccinated. And the way I looked at it, we've been COVID for nearly 2 years. Renfrew County is a relatively safe area. And I think the protocols and what we've been doing in the procedures has kept our workers safe. And to me, it's been evident because nobody here has gotten COVID. And when I think about the surrounding municipalities, I also feel they're doing a great job. I mean, there's lots of nice messages going out there, but I do agree it should be up to the person. And they're dealing with the public but to me, they're not like a frontline worker, like a police officer or somebody in the health field. And I've talked to lots of different people and lots of different organizations about what their policies are. Education in Renfrew County is different than education in Toronto. I've talked to some OPP officers and they've told me what they do. I've talked to some waitresses and waiters who aren't vaccinated, but that are still serving the public, and asked them what their protocols are at the restaurants. And they're different too. They're not allowed to associate efforts with the other waiters and waiters, but it seems like it's all different. And I do agree, this COVID has been very stressful for everyone, and nobody wants to get COVID. But on the other hand, there are some people, and I personally am stressed out about getting my second shot. You know, I feel like I'm gonna get sick. I'm really healthy right now, but I feel like something terrible could happen. So to say that I'm not under stress, you know, I don't take it lightly. So there's other people that definitely don't want to get it for whatever reason it is. But sometimes I'm thinking that people that haven't got the shot are actually safer because they aren't putting themselves at risk. And we all know people, well, we don't know all know people, but it's been in the media, people that have been doubly vaccinated have still given COVID and still can get COVID. And the way I look at it too, because I'm not fully vaccinated, I'm even more careful. At any rate, I do agree with the fact, to me, North Algona has put in procedures and protocols to keep all of their employees safe. And I feel like we should continue doing it. And if we do it, I have a real problem with saying the volunteer firefighters don't have to get vaccinated, where they are employees of our township, and then they're forcing other people to get it. And really it is a force. And I know you can say, no, you don't have to get it. Well, there's a consequence when you don't get it. And if it means you're not going to have a job, that's a consequence. And some people will go down that path. Other people will say, I can't go down that path, I'm going to get vaccinated.
So the policy that's in front of us allows for people to opt not to get the vaccination, but then you have to do your rapid test.
At his expense. If the employer is required, it should be at the employer's expense.
If you read the Renfrew County one, it is at their expense,
At the employee's
at
expense.
the employee's expense. In public education in Renfrew County, it's at the employer's expense. If you're a member of the Ontario Provincial Police, it's the member's
If
expense.
you're an Ontario worker, it's the employee's expense.
And I've got another question too. Are we still getting COVID funds? And if we decided to go down a road where it's pretty simple, you don't get the vaccination, you're gonna have to be tested, right? And in my case, it's twice a week. And then you have to prove to your supervisor, all that other stuff, just like I'm sure it was. Do we still have COVID funding? So if we decided to go down a path where people weren't doubly vaccinated and we're still allowing them to work and we have to say they get tested, are there monies available so that that employee doesn't have to pay for the test? Do we know that? Because we used to get COVID monies, didn't we?
So there's a lot of questions.
Okay, well, the short
But
one is,
I'll go backwards a little bit. So in regards to COVID funding from the provincial government for vaccine testing of employees, that would be a question we'd have to ask if we use funds to do that. So that'd be a question we'd have to ask the province. Going back to the firefighters, and I did meet with the chief prior to working on this policy. And for whatever reason, we have approximately 20% of our firefighters that are not vaccinated. Unlike a normal worker, and unlike the city of Toronto has thousands of firefighters, we have a very small amount of firefighters. And our firefighters are working at other jobs, doing other things. So if there's 8 firefighters available to come to a fire, those happen to be the 8 that aren't vaccinated, you know, we can't risk our residents the safety factor. The other somewhat exemption that was put in the policy was, again, we're very small in our public works. If it was to snow like crazy, and we've got four operators and one doesn't have vaccine, you know, what is the weighing thing with the municipality, put that person in the truck and have them plow snow, you know, safe. So as far as staff, through the CAOs and through the mayors, were asked by Dr. Cushman to do a county-wide policy. So we're presenting that to council. We all looked at that firefighter thing, we looked at our essential workers when, you know, snow's happening. And then we looked, the mayor provided me with the county's policy, which is so comprehensive, I couldn't write that policy this time, but we have to. It's presented before council, and Dr. Cushman would really like this to be done. We as staff are just presenting that, it's up, but you may come into a situation where it is the employer's duty to do everything reasonable under the circumstances for the protection of the worker. If you had a worker that claimed that they were in a very dangerous situation, and was stop work, and there's an investigation, would we be able to prove that we've done everything reasonable under the circumstances to protect our workers? And that's what I put in the report. Can we answer that question? Is it reasonable to get vaccinated? The Ontario government says it is. The federal government says it is. The county says it is. The Renfrew and District Health Unit says it is. So it's just telling council that can you protect yourself from that? And it hasn't happened, but I put things out there for council.
Councilor Robinson.
The concern that I have is this major rush to put certain things in place. And once it's there, it's almost carved in stone. We have gone through so many variations in the last 2 years on protocols for COVID testing, COVID processes, and things like that. I just feel it's a little premature to put down a policy right now. I feel it needs further consideration at this point. That's my thought.
And the resolution reads that we wouldn't be, well, that it would come back, the policy wouldn't come back until the next meeting of council.
And I still think that's too soon.
That's the part.
I believe we should have a policy, and I hear what you're saying about it being too soon. But a policy, whatever we choose to make it, as long as it's not contrary to law. So our policy would be as simple as we encourage all of our staff to get vaccinated. And we require all of our staff in the workplace to use the following infection control measures. So we're going to continue washing your hands, we're going to continue the social distance. We're going to continue to be behind a cone of silence at our meetings. We're going to use surgical procedure masks to protect other people. And those measures have all worked in our center. I'm not aware of any outbreaks that are linked to this municipality's operations. So obviously we've taken reasonable precautions to protect our workers and to protect the public. And I understand what Andrew was saying, because I've got some knowledge about the safety laws too. The thing that concerns me is when you start taking away a person's right to choose what medical procedures they take. I think they would have a potential charter argument that if someone chose not to, be disciplined for it, or suspended them without pay for it. And realistically, in a small municipality, when people are already struggling to make their bills because of costs going up with COVID, we really want to put our staff in that position of having to choose between a paycheck and their possible interactions. Because if you look at the Public Health Agency of Canada's website, more people have had serious adverse reactions to the vaccine than have been on ventilators. That's not from PHAC that you can find online from their actual site. So I think we could make an argument it's not reasonable to expect someone to accept that degree of risk of what the medical treatment is when they have the option to choose themselves. And we do have measures to protect our workers with the precautions that we've taken, because someone who's been vaccinated can still carry it, can still get it, and can still pass it. Right? And quite frankly, hasn't Ontario reached that magic 80% number that they were looking for? Right? I think the best policy we can put in place is to encourage our staff to get it, but they make their own choices. Right? They don't need to disclose their personal medical information to us unless they choose to. They can be asked if they don't have, they don't want to. And regardless, everybody who works here gets treated the same way that everyone uses their universal precautions. I think that's the best way to protect our workers without infringing on their personal freedoms. Right.
And I would have to say we could increase our protocols too. So for instance, we could have, there's lots of stuff and it's mentioned in here, like it's nearly like a COVID tutorial, right? So what you're doing is you're personally educating everybody. The other thing too is when I go to school, anybody that goes to school that goes into the building, they have to take, it's really like a Google Doc question. Have you been, it's more like this, really like this, right? And then you get a green check. If you failed any of those, you can't go to school that day. So I'm just thinking for some of our workers and people coming in, every day they should have to submit something. What, yeah, a personal, I don't know, maybe that happens, I don't know or not, but that's another level. So if the government agency ever said you're not doing a good job keeping your workers safe, we can say, yes, we do personal screening every day. If someone feels sick or has been told somebody had COVID, they can't come to work that day, right? We've done COVID education. We've done some formal COVID education. We always post when the different places are and where you can go to get your shot. You know, we still have the masks, we still have the cubicles, we still have the whatever in the truck, we still wash our hands, we still socially distance. And I think, sure, I guess if somebody wanted to challenge, that would be okay, but it's not like we're not doing anything. We're doing stuff, and we're still, to me, in an area where COVID is in low numbers, and just like Councilor Bucklow said, it has been going down. I actually thought the numbers might go up with the colder weather and people getting indoors, but it is going down and it's steadily going down. And when I look at the education system, with all those bodies, at least in secondary education, even last year and this year, they're doing a great job. And what is it? It's the mask, it's the social distancing, it's the hygiene. Those are important. Those are nearly as important as getting the job. And they've shown that. There was a company down in the States, 18 or 19,000 employees, the majority, a lot of them, 90% all got the jab, right? Then they started no masks, no hygiene, no social distancing, and the COVID numbers went up. They went back to the masks, the social, and then they went down. And we know what happened in Israel, right? Highly vaccinated country, right? They were going back to normal. Delta came in, a bunch of people, even though they were doubly vaccinated, got COVID, and now they're back to the peer boosters. So, I mean, the whole thing with COVID is to be vigilant. I'm afraid more people are going to get COVID that have their double vaccines because they think that they are invincible now. Got the vaccine, I'm going to be okay, but we know that's not true. So I don't want to put a mental burden on anybody. I don't want anybody to get sick. I think we have stuff in place, and we could do better to put stuff in place other than forcing somebody to get the vaccine.
So I have a question. Somebody gets COVID. Does the we have to ask the LT. Does everybody who's in contact then have to stay home for 14 days?
If you had someone in the workplace who had COVID, the health unit would contact the people that have been in contact with that person. And they would probably request them to stay home. Depending on the contact, that's something that the health unit did not allow. And then the health unit may ask, suggesting that they do rapid testing, isolate the results come in, plus beyond that. And it's a different response to whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic. That's how the health unit will respond.
And also, was it a direct contact or indirect contact?
Yeah.
So if Doug got it, then I'm pretty directly, but let's say.
We're 6 foot 1 feet apart, so we're okay. They don't travel
But
6 feet.
somebody else that's in the building doesn't necessarily be a first contact or direct contact. And your argument is true, Mayor Rose, but we know the same thing could happen even if we were doubly vaccinated. Trying to give COVID to somebody and they're still back at it, isolating the workers. I know that could be a burden on our work staff, and I get all that, but that's why this is important, and masks are important, and hygiene is important.
Councilor Bird?
Well, I have to say, I agree with Janet. We can't have all our workers be vaccinated and then let the fire department not vaccinated. You got to treat everybody equal. Like that is one thing, but I have to agree with Council Buckwalter and Dan, and you really can't force people to do something like this. I know we need a policy. We should have.
So the resolution would still read that, what I hear council saying is we should have a policy. And the resolution speaks about bringing the policy back. Yes.
So just for the comfort of council in regards to measures, the screening when employees come to work, the screening when people come to the building, and mask requirements at distances, we maintain that. We do not wear a mask in the environments where we're close to working with people that are double vaccinated. We, we're not hand in hand with the requirement. That requirement we don't do because we have everyone in the office vaccinated. We are very cautious with people that come into the office. If someone comes in for a meeting with all our staff, they sit behind the cubicle and then they take their mask off. So we have procedures and we have a policy for COVID in place. What we do not have is a vaccination policy. And I would suggest to council that if council chooses not to take the advice of Dr. Cushman, or comments, which is what you're doing, that's okay, that council defers this resolution and instructs staff to come back with a vaccination policy that is in line with the discussion that council has tonight. And so it wouldn't be, your resolution just be deferred immediately for instruction.
Council, to take the formal vote on that, to defer.
Defer.
Council Burke,
Yes,
Council Buckwalter,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yes.
Council Jean-Paul.
Yes,
Three, yes. So that's the third. And 7.3 is resident concerns. I have a resolution that council has reviewed the email correspondence from the resident and instructs staff to issue an immediate stop work order to Hydro One in regard to pole installation for a new service on Algona Drive. And that Hydro One be directed to submit a new plan for pole installation that complies with the resident's request. Further, that the resident's drainage concerns be brought forward prior to council authorizing a solution to the drainage alongside the resident's house.
comments, questions?
Oh, yes. Can I get over in a second? Moved by Councilor Jean-Paul, seconded by Councilor Burke. Questions, comments? Councilor Buckwalter.
Just the further that the drainage can be brought forward prior to council authorizing a solution. How are we bringing it forward?
So council's already deferred the drainage. And you would just be bringing that part of the email to when you bring the drainage back to council.
Okay.
The resolution isn't necessarily staff's advice to council, it's what the residents ask for. Council may want to pick it up.
I certainly don't agree myself with putting a stop work order to Hydro One. The resident has a concern about his line for his septic system, which, yes, if it's going to be an issue, I don't think Hydro would have a problem moving the pole 3 feet one way or the other, or 4 feet. But my understanding is the resident wants the pole moved 30 feet. move it 30 feet is going to require probably changing the design of the line. So I don't agree with issuing the stop work order. Councilor Roberts.
A change like this is gonna cost a lot of money.
Yep.
Is he gonna pay for it?
No, probably the person building the new house who needs the new line is going to end up having to pay for it.
And that's the concern, that we're getting into another commercial activity that's unrelated to municipal business.
How's about that?
Is there anything, and I'm just going by what I've seen in the email strings, I guess it'd be a question for staff. Is there anything in the installation along the right of way that from a township perspective should concern us? To be able to issue a stop work order?
To answer your question, and certainly explain in emails, when we look at a hydrant installation, the only things we can look at are valid concerns of the municipality. And the valid concerns are that we can do our maintenance and it doesn't cause a safety concern. We don't look at other things. If it's in front of someone's property, when like a front meeting on the same side of the road as the property, it's affecting their driveway, then they would be able to contact hydro in that regard. If it's across the street, I think if I asked anyone in the municipality to want hydro pull across the street from your house, everyone's gonna say no. They're not gonna say yes, they want blocking the view or whatever they do. So we really only have the justification to say no if it causes us hardship. And in that particular installation, there's nothing of any concern to any of the maintenance we do or the safety that we have within the municipality. So do we have the power to issue a stop work order? We would have to look at legal ramifications as to doing that, because when you do something for one person, you affect another person. And is that going to cause a legal lawsuit or something because we infringed on another person's ability to have the services or get paid services? So before issuing a stop work order, if that's council's desire, I would suggest that legal opinion, can you actually do a stop work order?
So just explain to me why the pool got moved from where it was to in the middle of, I'm gonna say, where Don says it is. And why, what's going on with the new house built and their electricity? Because I'm trying to figure that all out.
So, and I'm not Hydro One, and Hydro One can probably, answer something, and I did ask them to explain that. It's the service provider has determined that the service going to the house or that area,
The new house?
the new house isn't robust or big enough to serve that house.
Right.
So they're upgrading the system. And normally an upgrade is paid for by the resident or house or business requested. There is a benefit to the municipality with upgrades, because when you upgrade something, you upgrade it. You can't just make your own hydro line. You're upgrading everyone's line within the end. So it's going to be better for service.
So by upgrading that new build, and Hydro said they had to upgrade that new build, right? Then they had to move the posts.
Well, they're installing three new posts.
So before there was maybe 2 posts?
The posts that are being used are determined not to be in the location for the services that they're putting in. So they're installing 3 new posts. Doesn't mean other posts are being removed. I don't know that we're removing. Our approval was only to put in 3 new posts. So if you look at the location of the posts, in the question is, can I park there? Each one of those posts in the location would block someone from parking in that exact spot. If you move one post 30 feet, it's assumed that you're moving the next post 30 feet and the next post 30 feet. If you don't move that post and you put a new post in, so you make a smaller span, then whatever the cost, whether it be $5,000 or $6,000 to put a pole in, you'd be adding cost to that. So to move a meter or less, I'm sure that hydro probably would have accommodated that. To move a considerable distance, they wouldn't, but they may not accommodate that because even the meter, because the resident has no claim
Right,
to
'cause
that,
it's not
that
going.
property. And the reason why you see the emails, I asked the resident about that septic system. And do you have permission, from the landowner, because that would be the only tool possibly you could ever use. That is in front of a septic system, the comment about cutting trees down in front of your septic system. That's the only benefit of septic system. My public superintendent, when he looked at it, he said that cutting down some trees is just gonna take some of the shade off the road. And the road's gonna dry up a lot faster. That's a concern.
So basically, because they're putting in a bigger service, it's gonna benefit the rest of the road, and that happened because of the new build. Then they had to put in more posts. So by putting in more posts, what happens to end up where it does?
That for whatever reasons of the service coming to that house, that's the engineers or hydro experts determine that's where the post should be. And we as a municipality, again, just only look, is it gonna cause us trouble? Are we gonna hit a plow? Is that place we push snow? Is it gonna affect the fire department's ability to fight a fire? Is there an overhead danger?
So
Councillor Buckle, and then Councillor-
So the only asset that we have on that side of the road potentially is that where we put the water for the drainage in,
Which is not near that
which is
particular.
not going to be affected by the hydro poles. So really, we have no reason to tell hydro no. I feel for the ratepayer that yes, it's going to be a change for him, but it's really not for us to do.
And of course, that was explained in this.
Councillor Burr.
The pictures that's on our red, I drive around quite often because I live there. And then where it pulls it on the road.
So I believe they may be red and they've got their,
Yeah, yeah,
they're
red.
about 3.5 feet high.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ones. So you can see the house 3 doors down towards the
Around the
center.
corner,
Yeah, you
sure.
can see where there's another one and then a couple houses on, there's another one. So that's what the posts are from.
I did miss the one in front of Donnie's house, but I did see the other ones. Around the corner there, there's 3 pickets there. Is that for, would that be for bush fires?
They could be that this, I know that the ones that are the posts are about 3.5 feet high, or the thicker posts.
Yeah. I seen them, they've been there for 2 weeks now. But I don't think that we can stop, I can stop.
Well, and I understand that residents along Island View Drive do use the opposite side of the road, and it is township road lines for parking. And I think every resident would probably tell you that, yes, they're aware that that's township property, and some of them probably even cut the grass and maintain that area, because they like to keep it nice from front of the property. Same as I cut the grass on the county right away in front of my place. But at the end of the day, that technically you don't have any entitlement to that. And you may have enjoyed that benefit for years, but it doesn't mean you have an entitlement to that going forward.
I think Mr. Bishop realizes that, but I think he was thinking that we as the township could, let's say, move that post, right? But the way it's explained to me tonight, the problem is, it's a totally new service, and because it's a totally new service, they're gonna need more hydro poles. Right, and because of that, it's just like, you start at 30 feet here and you go the next 30 feet, and that's just the way it's going. We can't ask them to move, like you said, 30 feet the other way, and then just put a big span. That's not, I guess, hydro safe.
We're not hydro engineers. We give them permission to put it on our way, but that's it.
That's right.
As long as that's so that it doesn't affect our roadway other than that.
And realistically, if it wasn't a new build and they weren't putting in a bigger service, then it would be different. You just be replacing
They
the
might not need it, yeah.
Council Burke.
And another thing the township has on that road is, 2 signs on both ends of that Algona Drive. The sign reads is, no parking within 5 feet of the pavement. Them signs are still up there, I'm 100% sure of that. So when you talk about parking across the road from his house, you can't, because there's only about 3 to 10 feet between the edge of the road and the fence. And there is signs on both ends of that road, I'm 100% sure.
And just to add to Councilor Burns, glad you brought that up. So years ago, people didn't want parking. And they asked for those signs to be there. Because the same as I can park on the opposite side of the road, no one can stop me from parking on someone's lawn on their side of the road unless you have some sign that council. That's why those signs are out there, because I could go to one of those lakeside cottages if there's no restriction. And I could park right on their, what they consider to be their front lawn, and I'm 5 feet from their cottage. Because that's the width of our road. So we haven't discouraged, council hasn't ordered us to ticket people that are parking. But that parking has to accommodate the utilities that service, the road, you know. It's the same everywhere in the end, and we treat it the same. The only time we really get involved in hydro is when a new service is put in and it's on the same side as someone, and you're cutting out a whole section of forest that, you know, put poles in, and it doesn't affect that property. There's one that did come to council recently. Normally, we don't get involved in that, but in that other one, again, hydro is looking at going eventually through the road, which would add benefit to the other end of the road. So we're not in the business generally as a municipality of telling hydro, you know, where you put services and where you can't. We're in the business of serving our ratepayers, and one ratepayer may not like it, another ratepayer is benefiting from that service.
Any further comments? So call the vote, Councilor Burke.
This should be almost 2 resolutions here. Because the hydro one should be a separate one and the drainage one should be a separate.
Are you making that a motion?
As council has already directed, the drainage has been deferred. So if you want to vote on or meet the drainage, you're going to vote on it again anyway, because you've actually deferred it, but it has to come back to council. For information.
Can you take that off the resolution and just vote on the top part of it? That's.
You can choose to take it off if you want.
Because to me, it should be it should be separate.
Are you moving to remove that from the resolution?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is there a seconder for that, Councilor Buckland? So we'll take a vote on removing that from the resolution first. Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Buckland?
Yes.
Councilor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilor Rakashenko?
Yes,
Yes, so I'm just going to stroke that. I think that's carried to remove that last part from the resolution. Do we need a separate resolution for that, or? Okay. So then the resolution reads that council has reviewed the email correspondence from resident and instruct staff to issue a meeting software report to Hydro One in regard to pole installation for new service on Island View Drive. And further, that Hydro One be directed to submit a new plan for pole installation that complies with the residents' requests. Councilor Burke. Councilor Burke.
No.
Councilor Buckland. No. Councilor Robinson.
No.
Councilor Reddish-Onfeld,
No,
and a no, so that is defeated. That brings us to 9.1, which is our non-action correspondence. I have a resolution that council accepts correspondence items 9.1 to 9.14 as information. Can I move it a second? Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Burns. And comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Reddish-Onfeld.
yes,
Yes. That's carried. Action item 9.2.1, Heritage Radio, I have a resolution that council does not advertise with the municipal season greetings Heritage Radio promotion, and that since air spots are still available to the township within the Heritage Radio municipal communications package purchased in January 2021, council directs staff to use these spots to promote township holiday greetings. Comments or questions? Councilor Reddish-Onfeld.
so I think that's a great idea for the saving money.
Yes.
And the other just possibility, I'm just putting it out there, so, and I don't know how this all works, but is there any way we could all record a message at some point where you might say Mayor Rose and his fellow council, because it says we can do it instead of recording them.
You could, yes.
And
Can I get a mover to second?
Oh, yeah, okay. I was trying to speed it up.
Councilor Reddish-Onfeld, second by Councilor Rose.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just thinking, we could something that Mayor Rose and his councilors would like to wish you all a happy holiday, and you could say happy holiday, I could say Merry Christmas, you could say. Yeah, something like that, you know, I don't know, it might be just a little different, you know, just saying we're all a team, right?
I don't know where you're saying, spice it up.
Yeah, you can say spice it, but I mean, maybe we could just think of something, we still have a little time.
We have enough time.
And maybe we could, and like, we must have the capability, right? Councilor Barbara to say something, we could all think of a festive greeting, and even the staff could say something like in the background, Merry Christmas, something like that.
Or they could sing. while
They could
do
sing,
it.
they could hum.
What's happening or something like that.
Anyway, that was just my thought, as I read it, I just was trying to think, like, sometimes they're pretty boring. Just a thought, doesn't have to, but I like the idea. That
Any other comments? So are we waiting on you to organize that?
No. Okay, for the next council meeting, in a silent thought, think about what you're gonna say. And we only have a certain amount of time. 20 seconds. We could do it though, I know we could do it too.
I'm sure we could. I mean, maybe we all bring back a short little greeting and
Mhm.
we can record it next meeting.
I'm sure we could, right? We've got like power, right? Doug? Yeah. Yeah. Those little.
so we have to start the meeting at 6:30.
Little control or something like that.
Do it right on this.
Yeah, you have to show us, that's,
No, we'll
I'm not very good.
press the start button and we'll rotate.
Exactly. You push record, that really comes up to it, says their thing, stop, you turn the end off it and send it.
Yeah, I don't wanna like violate any COVID policy.
Just wear a mask.
Okay,
Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwell,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddish-Onfeld.
yes,
Yes. That's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.2 is a resolution, whereas the township of North Algona Wilberforce received correspondence from the municipality of Leamington regarding long-term care homes. Be it further resolved that the township of North Algona Wilberforce supports their correspondence. And that this resolution of support be sent to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Premier of Ontario, the federal and provincial ministers of health, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for their immediate action, and that a copy be sent to AMO, MP Cheryl Belland, and MPP Johnny Antabusky for their information. Can I get a mover and a second, please? Moved by Councilor Burke, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Comments or questions? Seeing none, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Buckles,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes,
Councilor Reddy Funkle,
Yes,
and yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2.3 is the proposed consent application for Blair Griffith. I have a resolution that council considers the creation of the fourth lot from the Blair Griffith property to be appropriate under section 14.3.4 of the official plan for the county of Renfrew, provided the lot can be adequately serviced with potable water. And I'm going to move in a second, please. Moved by Councilor Buckwald, seconded by Councilor Burke. Comments or questions?
The question here, potable water, what's the meaning of that?
I'm assuming that's just well water.
Water you can drink,
Yeah.
safe drinking water.
I've never seen that on before. And the other comment, it's under our action. Shouldn't this be another place on our agenda instead of them here?
So it's under correspondence, because we seek a request, it's not, they haven't submitted a consent application to the county yet. They're just in the process of gathering information to see if the application would be successful. So they sent out correspondence to the township just to see if the council would be willing to approve a fourth lot.
That's right.
would it be an issue though, because in that second last paragraph, it said of the 3 lots that were previously severed, only 2 have been developed. However, the creation of 4th lot would create no planning issues. If 3 of those lots would have been developed, does that create an issue or not?
So I'll just going to focus on fourth.
Okay,
Okay.
because I'm just thinking if it was severed off, then there is potential that at some point in time it could be that really.
Okay, so what the county official plan under section 14.3 says is that lots are permitted. And so 3 lots are permitted and normally considered. An additional 2 lots would be permitted provided certain criteria are considered, and here's what the criteria is. So one of the criteria is that the first 3 lots severed have been developed. Okay, in this case, only 2 of the lots have been developed. So normally that wouldn't meet the criteria, but in this case, the 3rd and 4th lot, the way they're situated, where they're situated, it doesn't cause a planning issue. Okay.
They're not right next to each other, they're static spaces.
Yes.
Right, so and then eventually the 3rd lot could be,
Eventually,
everything would be okay, and that's not
developed, and that
wouldn't
wouldn't be planning concerns, and 4th lot could be developed without any planning concerns for the township also.
okay, and then there'd be no conflict or anything like that.
It's not going to create any demand for increased municipal service. If we don't have concern regarding ribbon development. So council has to consider these policies, but in this case, there's no issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on? And I think, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, that at one time you could have gone ahead, the resident could have gone ahead to the county to apply for the 4th or 5th lot, but now the county wants the municipality to send a letter of support before they will start their process.
And I was talking to the county planner, and actually in the new revised county an official plan, this clause has been removed,
Well, it has, but
has been removed.
so it makes the creation of the two lots easier.
Yes.
Thank you.
So is it, in all of Renfrew County, it's similar for townships, like you could own a certain amount and sever off 3 lots for sure, providing all those boxes were checked out, and with another additional 2 lots.
Yes,
It doesn't matter if you're in non or Addison law.
as long as the town of Renfrew official plan is the official plan that you use, it's the same
Right.
guidelines.
Right, like if we couldn't have it on a deer yard or something.
No.
That's, okay, just curiosity.
Yes, Council Bernard.
I thought at one time it was changed from 3 lots to 5. But
And this is what this does, so the first 3 lots are severed, and then an additional 2, which would be 5 in total.
So we do 2 more lots, plus the 3 that he has.
So you will, with this consent application, you will have a total of 4 lots that have been severed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Any further questions? Seeing none, Council Burns,
Yes.
Council Buckland,
Yes.
Council Robinson,
Yes.
Council Reddy Schoenfeld,
Yes,
and yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 13.1 is the Joint Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee. I have a resolution that the September 9th, 2021 Joint Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee minutes be accepted and presented. Can I move in a second? By Councilor Buckwall, seconded by Councilor Robinson. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwall,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy Schoenfeld,
yes,
and yes, it's carried. Thank you. So upcoming meetings of unfinished business, our next regular council meeting will be November 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. And I have asked under new business that the strategic plan implementation annual review be brought forward for our November 16th regular council meeting. So when we did our strategic plan, one of the components was that PGT would do an annual review to look at our progress and basically give us a bit of a report card on how we're progressing based on the strategic plan. So that's what that's about. That's the burn for you.
I was already, I won't be here for this first meeting in November.
Okay. Thank you for that. That brings us to item 15, which is our closed session. I have a resolution that council will go into closed session at 8:54 p.m. for one litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and one proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Can I get a mover in a second? And moved by Councilor Buckwall, seconded by Councilor Burns. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwall,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy Schoenfeld,
yes.
and a yes, that's carried. Thank you. We are now closed, and I have a resolution in council comes out of closed session at 9:17 p.m. Can I get a mover in a second? Moved by Councilor Reddy Schoenfeld, seconded by Councilor Burns. Councilor Burns,
Yes.
Councilor Buckwall,
Yes.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilor Reddy Schoenfeld,
Yes.
and a yes, carried. Thank you. Item 17 is our confirmatory bylaw, so. I have a resolution of bylaw 2021-61 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for October 19th, 2021, be read a first and second time this 19th day of October 2021. Can I move with a seconder? Moved by Councillor Buckwald, seconded by Councillor Schoenfeld. Read a third time and finally passed this 19th day of October 2021. Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Schoenfeld.
Yes.
And yes, that's carried. Thank you. Item 18 is adjournment. I have a resolution that this meeting of council adjourns at 9:18 p.m. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Buckwald.
Yes.
Councillor Robinson.
Yes.
Councillor Schoenfeld.
Yes.
Yes. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.